Hello, welcome. My name is Vanasar Tarakali, and I think this is the eighth installment of my Saturday night recordings, Befriend Your Fear and Nourish Your Immune System. And I'm here to offer support to myself and all of us in these early weeks of the pandemic for a healthy immune system, or as healthy as you can, and for working with fear. And one of the things I'm bringing with me today is my memories of my bird, Snow Lion. She passed on, I guess, back in 2013, and she was a small bird. She was white with a beautiful kind of lapis swath across her, almost like a scarf across her throat and chest. And she was a very brave bird. And today I kind of want to invoke her. I'm thinking about her. I also make bird essences, and I have a bird essence that is an essence kind of channeled from her energy. So she was a bird that went to the places that scared her. And she's kind of the first and the only bird I've had, and I've lived with a lot of birds at this point. She was the first and only bird I've had who would deliberately fly towards the things she was afraid of. So whereas other birds would see something new in the home or on their tree and be terrified of it and retract and withdraw and not go near the scary thing, she instead would fly over to whatever it was that was scaring her, usually a new object, a new toy, a new thing. And she would fly really close to it and hover above it, yelling at it. And I kind of got the impression she was yelling, "I'm scared of you." And she would flap her wings and be screaming at this thing. And then she'd fly back and stand far away and stare at it and look kind of concerned. And she would go back and forth this way for a while. She'd fly back up to it again and scream at it, and then fly away again and look. And eventually, after a bunch of those practices over and over, she would then get close enough and touch it. So she would poke at it and then fly back really fast. So eventually, she would be sitting next to whatever it was and knock it down if she could, knock it onto the floor. And then she would fluff herself up and preen and organize all her feathers, and then she would be fine and no longer afraid of the thing that she'd been afraid of. She had vanquished her fear. But I watched her do this. She's, like I said, a very little bird, a prey animal, and they always have to be very watchful. None of my other birds did anything remotely like this. They would just be like, ah, and be scared and avoid it. I watched her do that. And I also watched her, she would like to climb under my duvet on the side of my bed, and it would make a tunnel. There would be the platform of the bed, and then the duvet would make a tunnel. And she would fly over to the opening of that tunnel, and she would peer into the darkness between the platform and the duvet, and her eyes would get really big, like she was really spooked. And then she would look, and then she would back up for a while, and then she would look and look really spooked. And then she would gradually creep inside the tunnel with her eyes still just huge. She would gradually go in, and she'd go exploring. So that's why I actually use this bird essence with people to help them with fear and courage and determination and persistence. And there's a whole somatic practice in in the first example that I shared, that um, with trauma healing, one of the practices we do is titration. Is we dip our toe into what's scary or what's uncomfortable, and then we back away from it and we move to a place of resource, a pleasant or neutral place in the body, or pleasant associations, or we'll use, as I've said in other videos, we'll use props or the wall or cushions to feel a sense of holding and containment, to make us feel held and safe. And so we'll move into the place that's scary, that needs to be really looked at. And into that, we'll move into that discomfort for a little bit, just like as if you dipped your toe in some water for a moment and it's a little cold, and then you back out and you go back to a more of a comfort zone, whether that's with props that are holding you, or pleasant sensations in your body, or pleasant associations. And you go back and forth, so just like Snow Lion did, she would fly towards what she was scared of. In her case, she would scream at it too. I think this is another part that we could maybe emulate sometimes. I'm scared. You can just be honest and in relationship with that fear and express it. And anyway, she would approach it and then she'd back off. And she'd go to some place she felt safer, like sit on the top of her cage. And then she'd go back and forth. And so how titration works is we just give ourselves a little bit of the experience of being present with what's scary or uncomfortable, and then we back off and we comfort ourselves. We move into a comfort zone. And we do that repetitively. And what happens is we're bringing in resource from the safe, the comforting, the containing place, or the pleasant sensation. We're bringing resource from there into approaching what we're afraid of. And we start gathering more bravery and also gathering more evidence, just like Snow Lion did. She would approach the things she's scared of. I'll make that a little more concrete. There was one time I brought a stuffed animal bird, about this big, bigger than her, like double her width and a little taller than her. And I put that stuffed animal on the stairs by her tree. And that's one thing that the first time she met it, she would fly at it and shriek at it in fear and go back and forth and eventually knock it down onto the floor. So what happened is she would be gathering evidence each time she approached it, and it didn't eat her. It didn't even attack her. And then she'd go back and retreat, and she was still safe, not a feather out of place. Then she would be gathering evidence each time she came to approach that scary stuffed bird that, oh, nothing bad happened. And then she would gather even more courage and she would poke at it eventually. And that's one way that we can gather evidence, is we can go to the places that scare us slowly, gradually, little by little, with breaks and with reprieves where we go and rest or find comfort or find pleasure, and then we come back. And what happens is we're expanding our capacity to tolerate being close to what we're uncomfortable about or what we're afraid of. And so that's what Snow Lion was an expert at. And it turns out that that's a very powerful trauma healing technique as well. And it's something I use with my clients a lot. And we want to kind of pay attention to how much is enough of a risk and moving in towards what you're afraid of, and how much is too much, and try and find that sweet spot of a little bit of stretch, a little bit of riskiness, and then resting and feeling safe and things feeling familiar. And so there may be something in your life, maybe for many of us, uncertainty is a big deal right now. And we may feel really triggered by financial uncertainty right now, by uncertainty about all the future plans we had that are probably, if you're like most people, they're up in the air right now. A lot of plans that we've made are on hold because of this pandemic, either because we've chosen to put them on hold, or shelter in place has made it so that we have to, um, or there's just nobody else to participate in what we wanted to do. There's all kinds of reasons, but a lot of our lives are on hold right now. A lot of our plans are. There's a lot of uncertainty. So whether we're going to school, whether we're working, whether we're running a business, whether we're trying to raise our children a particular way, all of these things are, in a lot of disarray and uncertainty. And that can trigger a lot of fear in us. For me, what got triggered recently is some financial matters, trying to find out if one of those disaster loans that you can apply for, trying to find out if I qualified, I didn't qualify, finding that, a lot of uncertainty waiting to find out about that. And that would make a big difference to, how I can kind of project ahead into the next 6 months for my life about whether I can be sustained, food and shelter and clothing and all that good stuff. And there have been many, many weeks where it's been completely, don't even know if that's going to happen, have no idea. And same with the stimulus check. Actually, in my case, I actually got it about 2 days ago. I've been waiting a while, like many of us have. So what happens for me when financial uncertainty gets triggered like that is it takes me back to some memories when I was little, when there was, I don't really want to tell the story, but there was a traumatic thing that happened when I was 3, where one of my parents very emphatically told me, they were very angry at me. They told me that if I didn't obey them in all things, I would not, they were not obliged to give me food or shelter or clothing. And they were very blunt about that. So I was 3 years old and I got that message of, if I don't toe the line, I might not be fed. I might not have a home. I might not have warm clothes. And I believed the parent that told me that. And it instilled a terror in me of authorities in the world. Could be government, could be the police, could be border control as an immigrant. I've definitely been nervous crossing borders, believe it or not, despite my white skin privilege and my English as my first language privilege. Nevertheless, I've experienced that same immigrant fear. And so whenever there is money involved and some authority that's way bigger than me, some institution is involved, could be the IRS, it could be the small business associations, all those. Anyway, that triggers in me that feeling, that terror that I don't have any control over my food and my clothing and my shelter that I was told about when I was 3. So pretty awful story, and it's stayed with me. And I've worked with it, being inclined to work with trauma, of course, but it left its mark on me. And this past week, as things were coming to a head about some of these disaster loan things, I noticed I was really gripped with terror, and like that I could be punished soon, or something could be withheld from me that I needed. And I had to do a lot of that Snow Lion did. I had to do a lot of, well, I'm having this fear, It's not going away, and it's actually interfering with my ability to just relax and see how it goes and see what my next move is and see what's going to unfold, and also to communicate calmly and clearly and make good decisions with the folks that are in charge of these financial things. And so I had to keep going back again and again, not to shut down, not to numb out, although I definitely did some of that, especially when I was first really triggered, but to actually go into those places wherein my body is feeling really frightened. And I keep pointing here because here was where a lot of it was. My heart was racing sometimes. I could notice I was kind of cringing a little bit, as if some terrible punishment was going to happen, or as if I needed to kind of curl up and protect myself, which really, the more I was able to just be with that, and again, in this way of being with it a little bit, feeling the sensations and the emotions, and then backing off and doing something soothing or comforting, or making sure I was all cozy in bed as I'm paying attention to these things, or finding something neutral or pleasant to pay attention to. So taking breaks and then going back to it. Oh, here's this fear still. Here are these heart palpitations. Here is this sense of kind of bracing myself. And the more that I would go back and forth and back and forth, the more I was able to actually, kind of like Snow Lion, be curious. Like, well, what is going on here? What is this all about? It's not like in real time somebody is about to take my shelter away from me any second. It's not as though somebody's coming into my home and taking all my food. It's not that immediate. And so, and if anything does happen that's so bleak, it's going to take months to happen. And so what on earth is this? And that's as I was able to be curious and be with the sensations, I realized after a while, oh, there's that old memory again. There's that 3-year-old going, oh no, somebody else has control over my destiny, my life. And what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And so the more I could kind of bravely and robustly just be curious and hang out with, oh, what's going on? Then I could actually respond to that 3-year-old. And I could say, hey, guess what? This is not your parent who was so cruel to you. This is actually a very slow-mo process. And I have a lot more resources than I used to. And I have people in the world who probably would help me if I didn't have any food, and probably not only people I know, but even strangers. There's lots of kind folks who would be willing to help out if I didn't have shelter. So it's not something to be so immediately terrified. And I would talk to this young self sense in me and just tell her that and reassure her. And kind of consciously go, well, that's what's going on in my body that feels so intense that I need to keep comforting her, and also being the grown-up who is dealing with um, the institutions, but not that scared little part of me be the one who's like feeling all naked and facing these institutions, but actually kind of like saying to her, hey, I've got you. You hang out back here, or you sit in my lap, and I'm going to take care of business, and you don't need to worry about this. I have got this. And I know how to ask for help too. So even if I don't know exactly what is going to happen in the next few months, I've got this. I'm going to take care of us. I'll ask for help, and I promise you I'll take care of this. So you relax. It's okay. The past is not the present. It's really different now. So that is one way that by going back and forth into the sensations, and gradually the memories opened up, gradually my body reminded me what stories were getting triggered. By that gradual process of titration, similar to Snow Lion, and that gradual process of gathering evidence. if I got a little closer to the sensations of fear here and here, did anything terrible happen? No, no, they're actually just sensations in my body, just memories. They're not actually happening here and now. And so I gathered evidence. I kept comforting myself, and then, you know, as I kept doing that, I did reach out to some folks, and I did do some research, and I did start finding out what are the possibilities, what are the options, what are the pitfalls, and I got a clearer sense of what's going on with this whole disaster loan situation, and it was very grounding. And I was able to do that because I was letting my young, terrified self be comforted and held and reassured. And I was letting my grown up self be in the forefront and dealing with the grown up business. So that's one way we can approach these things. I just wanted to share that with you. And also, getting back to Snow Lion part two, her other thing about going spelunking in between the duvet and the bed platform, going into that tunnel, she was actually kind of having a good time. Her eyes would be big, but she would do it anyway. And I saw her do it actually day after day, plenty of days. And she would come out of there like fine, she was fine. But she would usually go in really freaked out. But I think it's kind of like some people like roller coasters and some people like horror movies. Not me. I think it's kind of like that, as there can be some kind of fun about moving towards what you're scared of and exploring it. There can be a sense of fun and daring and, hey, I'm badass. And also just, I'm curious. Well, what is this fear? And what lies ahead in this dark cave? I wonder what's going to happen. So I also want to share with you that we are, just like my bird Snow Lion, we can be very daring, very courageous, and extremely interested and curious about life and what's going to happen next and what's up ahead. And so that's another way to be in relationship with your own fear and with uncertainty, is sometimes for little moments, little tiny moments, we can kind of go, huh, this is kind of interesting. I wonder what's going to happen. And we all have that possibility in us. If a little bird, a prey animal, who's, you know, genetically kind of programmed to constantly look for predators that are about to eat her, if she can have some fun going on a little spooky exploration, then surely you and I can do that. There are so many things we human beings have faced collectively and individually, and so many things we've discovered by being curious. And one way you can access this is to be very kind to yourself when you're afraid. If you feel fear in your body or you're having fearful thoughts, you can say kind, reassuring things to yourself. You can also put your hands on the places that are scared. If your heart is beating fast, if your chest is contracting, if your breathing is shallow, if your eyes are kind of like looking, being vigilant, you can go to all these places in your body and just, you can touch them kindly, like, oh, hi, you're working so hard. I just want you to know I'm with you. I'm with you while you're scared. So as I'm saying this, I'm touching some of these scared places in my body with kindness. I'm just being with them. And this is one of the most powerful trauma healing principles that there is that those of us who do therapy or somatic coaching or body work that is there to help people heal their trauma, what we're here to do is to hold your hand or walk by your side as you go forward and face what you're afraid of. And we stand there beside you, or we're at your back, or we'll hold your hand, and we'll be staying present. And you can even go into the depths of hell, your own private hell, what you're most afraid of. And those of us who are here to do trauma healing work, we are here to be present with you, to keep you company, and to look at you with confidence. Like, I know you're gonna get through this. This thing you're afraid of is not bigger than you. It might have felt bigger than you when you first encountered it, especially if you were little. And certainly this pandemic, it is bigger than us at the moment. But we're here to be present with you and keep you company so you're not alone with this thing that you can actually, your own fear, you can face in little bits by little bits. And we're here to watch too and go, okay, that seems like that was enough. Now let's back up and go into comfort zone. So, and we're also here to go, okay, seems like you're ready to move forward like Snow Lion and just take a little peek and see how you do. So you can use therapists and somatic coaches and body workers and all kinds of different healers, the ones that you trust, to be your company, to be your companion, and to reassure you, you're going to be okay. And you will learn, with that extra bolstering of that presence of a healer with you, you'll learn that, yep, and that did not kill me. I'm okay. I was okay. And you'll gather evidence, and you will become more and more confident that particular thing that you've been afraid of, that you can actually go into those scary places and you can return and you're still alive and you're still okay. And that confidence that you might borrow for a while from a healing practitioner, that will start to internalize in you, and you will be less and less afraid and more familiar with your scary places. Just like I got more and more familiar with my 3-year-old, and I can go, oh, there she is again. I got to reassure her. So it's really, really possible to become so familiar with the scary places in yourself, your old places of trauma and oppression, your community's old ancient places of oppression and trauma. It's possible to become so intimately familiar with them that you can hold them with love and kindness until some of the stuckness just softens. And then you start to flow again. Maybe you'll cry, maybe you'll yawn, maybe you'll have to shake it off. Maybe you will start needing to sleep a lot for a while, but things will start moving and shifting. And your whole relationship to that old trauma will be different. And you will indeed experience yourself as bigger than what you were afraid of, encompassing of it. So we can take that guidance from my friend Snow Lion about going to the places that scare us. And since I keep using that expression, I just want to also say that is a phrase you might have heard before. It was, as far as I know, first spoken by a Tibetan woman named Machi Glapdrong. I'm going to show you a tanka of her. She was a famous Tibetan woman teacher, spiritual teacher, and she taught the Chud practice, which is the practice of offering yourself to the demons that are afflicting you or scaring you, offering yourself to them, offering yourself for them to eat. It's like giving yourself to your fears so that they're satisfied. And she was quite famous for saying that, go to the places that scare you. And I would add to that incredible wisdom that go to the places that scare you, and the places that are too scary for you to go alone to right now, go to the places that scare you with an ally. And choose a trustworthy ally to accompany you to those places, and go to the places that scare you. And then you will be able to go there by yourself eventually. It'll be something that it'll grow in you, your courage and your familiarity and your even friendliness towards your own fears will grow. And then you won't need, for those particular ones, you won't necessarily need company anymore. Last thing I want to say about this is if you, I'm speaking actually from my own lived experience when I'm talking about these things. I actually don't believe in talking about things or teaching things that I haven't personally experienced. So I just want you to know that I'm telling the truth from my own experience. And one of the ways that I have become somebody who is able to go with a lot of people to their scariest places and hold their hand or stand by their side or watch their back, or just kind of hold them with my presence and my love, and just trust that they're going to be okay. Just like I could trust, hey, Snow Lion's going to be okay. Yeah, as long as she knows I'm out here on the other side waiting for her. The reason I can have that confidence in myself and in you and whoever I work with is because I have had allies hold my hand and encourage me and believe in me and say, okay, Vanessar, let's go into the scary places a little bit, just a little bit. I know you can. And I've had them do that, and I have learned from personal experience that I can visit my scariest, most terrifying places, and I can come out alive. And I can come out actually more than alive, with wisdom, with gifts, with courage, and with a deeper compassion and kindness for myself, and certainly for others. If you face your own fears and you keep moving into them, you are a lot less likely to judge other people for theirs, because man, what you're afraid of is what you are afraid of. You are super afraid of it. That's why trauma is what it is. It's not a little thing to go into those places. Anyway, I have, over the years and decades, had good allies and practiced this on my own as well. And so I can say to you with confidence that you will, if you do it gradually, little by little, and you're as kind as you can be to yourself, and you take advantage of allies when you can get them to accompany you, that you will become fearless. I don't mean without fear, but fearless like Snow Lion. You're scared and you go anyway, and you discover what's there, and you get to know yourself very deeply. So that's really possible. And yeah, so courtesy of Machi Glapdom and a little bird named Snow Lion, that's our talk today and our practice today. And I wish you well, and I hope you're having as peaceful a time as you can in this time of uncertainty. And I'll see you again next Saturday at 6 o'clock, or I'll see you again whenever you watch the next video. Take good care. Oh, if you want to ask me any questions or connect with me, if you look at my name at the bottom on the, it's probably the left side bottom of the screen, Vanessar Tarakali. You can reach me at vanessarsomatics.com. So it's spelled Vanessar like it's written down there, and then somatics. VanessarSomatics.com is my website. You can reach me at vanessar@cs.com as well. Or you can go to my Facebook page, Tarakali Education. So there's my last name, Tarakali. Just look up Tarakali Education on Facebook and you'll find me there. And that's where I'm posting these videos. So feel free to message me or email me or contact me by phone if you want to ask me questions, if you're interested in working with me. Um, any of those things, I'd be really happy to hear from you. Take good care. Bye bye.